Right now, you're losing an argument about how many of you there are. You think the answer is one. One person. One you. The real number is closer to 70 trillion, and most of them didn't ask your permission to be here. That reaction you just had, the "no, I'm obviously one person" reaction, that's the fun part. It's wrong, and we can prove it, cell by cell. Let's do a census. Actual number of cells wearing your name badge, about 30 trillion. Write it down. It's the last comfortable number in this video. Because here's what nobody mentions about your 30 trillion cells. 84% of them are red blood cells, and red blood cells threw out their own nucleus. No nucleus means no DNA. No DNA means no copy of you. Most of your cells can't prove they're yours. The majority of you, by headcount, is a fleet of little red rubber rafts hauling oxygen around. No ID, no genome, no idea who you are. They can't even reproduce. They just drift for about 4 months, then quietly die at their post. And there are a lot of them. Stack your whole cell count together, and you're carrying more cells than the Milky Way has stars, dozens of times over. You are, numerically, a galaxy that files taxes. So already, the word "you" is doing a lot of lifting. Now let's count the passengers you never invited. Bacteria, on you, in you, mostly packed into your gut like a rush hour train that never reaches a station. For decades, the textbook number was 10 bacteria for every one of your cells. 10 to 1. You, allegedly, 90% tenant. Then, in 2016, 3 researchers actually redid the math. The real ratio is about 1.3 to 1, which sounds like a relief, until you say it out loud. It's not 10 to 1, it's a tie. You're running a hung parliament in a trench coat. 38 trillion of them. Roughly 1 bacterial cell for every human one. And they brought paperwork. Your genome has around 20,000 genes. The bacteria riding inside you carry, together, more than 100 times that. So in the genetic parliament of your own body, you are outvoted, out-legislated, and, the polite term, a minority shareholder. And it's a crowded chamber. 500 to 1,000 different species, most of which science still hasn't got around to naming. You're a rainforest that thinks it's a person. They're not just freeloading either. They make vitamins you can't. They train your immune system. Some of them signal your brain through the nerve running straight up from your gut and can nudge your mood. You've got a second population of living things helping run your head, and you have never once met them. Add every microbe up, and they weigh about half a pound. A soup can of bacteria, tucked mostly in your gut, quietly rearranging your chemistry while you take all the credit. Okay, that's the tenants. Now the part that lives inside the walls. Open up one of your real cells, one with a nucleus, one that's definitely you. Inside are hundreds of little bean-shaped engines called mitochondria. They're the reason you're not a puddle. Every breath you take is fuel for them, and they turn it into the energy that runs everything you've ever done. Here's the catch. They're not yours either. About 1.5 billion years ago, one cell swallowed a free-living bacterium and, for reasons we still argue about, didn't digest it. The bacterium just stayed, moved in, started paying rent in energy. That single act of not quite eating is where all complex life comes from. Mushrooms, oak trees, blue whales, you. Every last one descended from one prisoner that liked the arrangement. And you can tell it used to be its own thing, because it still has its own DNA. Separate from the DNA in your nucleus, a little private loop of code, 37 genes, running its own affairs in the corner of every cell you own. You are powered by a bacterium that's been technically not free since before there were animals. And there are a lot of them in there too. A hard-working cell can pack in thousands of these engines. Your whole body runs on quadrillions. Together, they rebuild roughly your own body weight in fuel every single day, then hand you the bill in the only currency that counts. 1 more minute of staying alive. One more thing about your engines. You only got them from your mother. Sperm don't hand theirs over. So the mitochondria humming inside you right now came from your mom, who got hers from her mom, who got hers from hers. An unbroken chain of the same captured ship, passed hand to hand down the maternal line for 1 billion years, straight into you. Trace that line back far enough, and every human alive descends from the mitochondria of a single woman a couple 100,000 years ago. Your engines have a cleaner pedigree than any royal family on Earth. You're just the current doc. So far, the fleet is huge, it's borrowed, and it's part prisoner. Here's where it stops being funny in a very specific way.
The fleet doesn't keep its crew. Every second you're alive, your body builds about 3.8 million new cells per second. That's 330 billion a day, quietly assembled and shipped out to replace the ones that just died. Most of it is blood, red cells, and immune cells that live fast and burn out.
Run that forward. Give it a few years. Almost every cell hearing this sentence with you will be gone, recycled by your own body, replaced by a cell that wasn't there when you started the video. The you from 7 years ago isn't a memory, it's a landfill, and the schedule is stranger than you'd guess.
Your gut lining gets replaced every few days. Your skin, about once a month. Red cells, every 4 months. Even your skeleton quietly swaps itself out, about once a decade. Right now, different parts of you are wildly different ages. You're a fleet, where the paint is always wet somewhere. This is the Ship of Theseus.
Old puzzle. A ship has every plank replaced, one by one, until nothing original is left. Is it still the same ship? Philosophers have argued about it for 2,000 years. Your body doesn't join the argument. Your planks get swapped whether you think about it or not. There's a schedule. You're on it.
And it gets stranger, because some of the crew was never yours to begin with. When a person is pregnant, cells don't only flow one way. The baby's cells cross over into the parent, and they don't leave. They lodge in the blood, the liver, the heart. They've been found, decades later, in the brain. So a parent can walk around for the rest of their life carrying the living cells of a child they gave birth to 30 years earlier, stitched quietly into their own tissue. In a study in 2012, researchers went looking in the brains of women who had died, some of them in their 90s, and found male DNA in most of the brains they checked. DNA that could only have come from a son. Cells from a pregnancy, still there, in the last place you'd think to look for someone else. And they may not just be sitting there. Some of those borrowed cells seem to pitch in, turning up at injuries, patching tissue, behaving like they still have a stake in keeping the parent running. Your kid's cells, doing quiet maintenance on you, decades after the fact. And if you had an older sibling, some of their cells may have made the same crossing through your mother and be riding in you right now. It runs backward too. Some of the cells in you came from your mother, slipped across before you were born, and never left, which means you've been carrying someone else since before you had a face. Okay, here's the part that isn't funny.
Line them up. 30 trillion cells, with your name on maybe a sixth of them. 38 trillion bacteria that outvote you. Engines that are secretly somebody else. A crew that gets fired and rebuilt every few years. Passengers on board who belong to your mother, your children, your brother. Now, point to the part that's you. You can't, because it isn't any of them. It never was. You're not the cells. The cells are just the ships. You're the formation they hold. The shape the fleet keeps flying, while every single ship inside it gets replaced.
A pattern. A standing wave in a river of 38 trillion strangers. And the fleet swaps almost everyone. Almost. Because a few sailors never rotate out. Most of the neurons in your brain are as old as you are. Never replaced. Hired the day you were born. Kept until the very end. The lens of each eye is the same. They were there for your first memory. They'll be there for your last. So the fleet forgets nearly everything it was made of and keeps the handful of sailors who remember the beginning. And when it stops, when you die, the fleet doesn't die. It disbands. The bacteria move on to the next arrangement. The atoms go back into circulation. The formation just stops being held. Nobody sinks. Everybody leaves. You were never a thing, Terrans. You were an agreement, and it was always going to end the way every agreement ends, quietly, on schedule. So next time somebody tells you to just be yourself, ask them which 30 trillion they mean. You're not a person. You're a really convincing meeting. Next time, we point this exact same recount at something a lot bigger than you, a whole planet that might also just be a fleet, pretending very hard to be one thing. Until then, Terrans, try to hold formation.